Hi everyone, welcome to Motor Minds. My name is Ruben, your host. We're going to be doing this podcast for you guys. We're going to be interviewing car like-minded people who share in this hobby with us. I myself am a mechanic. I've been doing this 15 years, but pretty much born with a wrench in my hand. My whole life influenced by elders around me, friends, family. And here we are getting together with the art museum here in downtown called the DAW, and they share our passion for cars, the culture, and all the individuals that encompass this hobby. So during our podcast, we're going to be talking to these people, talking about some of the cars, and talking about what we do here at the shop, here at RG3 Solutions. So I really hope you can join us. I'm really excited about what we're going to uncover and discover together. So stay tuned. Get ready to cruise. Hi everyone, welcome to Motor Minds. We're here with, introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Dominic Perez. I am an intern currently working at the National Hot Rod Association Museum. It's out inside of, it's on McKinley out in Pomona, in case y'all haven't heard of it. It's kind of a well-hidden secret, but it's great.
Right on, Dominic. So thanks for being with us. We're happy that NHRA loaned you out to us.
Happy to be here. They're happy to get rid of me.
Yeah. The DAW and all of us here at Motor Minds really appreciate it.
Right.
So we're gonna get right into it, man. We're excited about the car show that we have on the 25th of September. But we are also curious what you guys have going on at the museum.
Well, out inside of the museum, we got a lot of different kinds of classic cars. Everything from your 1930s hot rods to some dragsters some historic dragsters that have been, driving up and down the Pomona Strip for years. And we got just some beautiful, beautiful cars that are just really excellent to go look at. I think there's about maybe 32 of them. Half of them is your standard dragster. Well, I'm sorry, half of them are your standard hot rod, and the rest are eclectic. It's kind of crazy. They even got big like sports engines for like say speedboats, and like these things are the size of small children. It's a trip.
Okay, so like a lot of race car stuff over there at the Hot Rod Museum, hot rods. Okay.
That
So
is-
were you always like into that side of because on Motor Minds we talk about the whole culture, we talk about the whole thing. I mean, racing and motorsports is a big part of the scene, but it's not the only part. There's lots of other scenes that we talk about the low and slow stuff. We had some guests this past show who are into overlanding. So as far as you go in your story, would you say that the hot rods and, like you say, engines that could suck up a small children, was that always appealing to you? That always called to you?
You know, I'm gonna level with you. When I applied for different internships, I actually applied to a bunch of different museums. I sort of looked at a bunch of different areas in, like, say, art and different kinds of displays and exhibits. But then I also made sure that I applied to the NHRA because, you know, you think to yourself when you're applying for getting internships, old school, like, say, what is a Monet or something like that. But there's something just so exquisite about a hot rod. And there's something just so immaculate about good pinstriping that just doesn't get recognized enough inside of the art world. And I really wanted to make sure that I was a part of that. Because to be honest with you, I've never been much of a person to have a mean machine, as in, like, I drove a 2002 Corolla for a long time. And it ran well, but also I couldn't really tell you what was going on under the hood.
That's not the kind of car where you need to know what's going on under the hood.
That's what I figured.
The '02 Corolla is one of those set it and forget it cars that you buy, and you probably don't have to pop the hood
Yeah.
every about 150,000 miles. Now that's an exaggeration. You have to check the oil and stuff, but Toyota Corolla, I'm sure, as you know, that you really don't ever even have to change the oil. Because they just go and go and go as long as it's in there.
Well,
They don't really leak any oil. They don't leak. They
Yeah.
don't misfire. The check engine light's rarely on. It starts right up millions of times consecutively, reliably in a row.
Yeah.
Which is why we don't talk about Toyotas much on Motor Minds. No, I'm just kidding. We do actually. Toyota's extensive history. Probably not a lot of Toyotas at the NHRA museum, right?
No. Yeah, and I was gonna say, so you're telling me that the Toyota Corolla was the perfect car for a 17-year-old kid who had no idea what he was
not.
doing? No.
100% no. I would never, ever recommend that to a 17-year-old kid. I mean, what we were trying to explore here on the show is the importance of the culture, and I would never, ever, talk down on a car like that. But there's so much more to be appreciated now. If your car had a big sunflower on the hood, or you're gonna tell me you had a 3-foot spoiler on the back, or maybe even some subs in the trunk. I mean, we like to talk about expressing yourself, because we can get into this. We can get into the culture and the artistic expression of the automobilia. We were discussing earlier off camera about why. And something, maybe you're yet to discover this, but something was calling you this way. Something compelled you. Something pulled you towards this. You were telling me earlier about aspirations of a cafe racer, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of trying to dig and excavate what some iconoclastic things perhaps you might have seen or noted that, okay. Can you say maybe perhaps when you remember a time maybe your interest got started, or maybe there was some person, a significant nexus figure who's just like, hey, kid, over here, check this out,
Right.
Was there someone like that, or a time like that?
No, there definitely was. That guy was my dad.
Okay.
And ultimately the reason, it's funny that you meant like the Toyota Corolla is not exactly the most expressive car. Right now I'm currently actually driving a 95 Chevy that was completely remade by this family friend. She was 95 years old and she was the only owner to ever have it. And she completely totally redid this Silverado so that it was gorgeous. And the thing is that's so interesting is that the culture where she really draws that from, I think, is just being in Southern California, having these big roads, being able to like sort of show off your car. It's just something that almost every single culture inside, or like an intersection inside of this area, just really has a passion for.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't done a whole lot of traveling to other cities, but the little bit I have done, I have noted how easily roads around here in Southern California lend themselves to the culture. Like you said, there's wide open roads. People on the sidewalk can see your car. You know,
Yeah.
we're not in tunnels. You know, we're not on these freeways. I mean,
Right.
literally people see you driving your car. It's a thing, you know, here in California. So I guess we all learn something every day. We just learned that now. I mean, it's something that I have noticed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Not every city lends itself to the infrastructure. You know, the civil engineering of having a gas station on every corner,
Yeah.
or
It's very true.
crosswalks. You know, streets that stay the same length. You know, for a long length of time. I mean, not all cities are like that. So
I mean, part of the reason that they built the drag strip over inside of the Pomona Fair, part of the reason they built the Pomona drag strip is because people kept on racing up and down town back in the 40s, and basically the local police department had a choice. They either keep on arresting these kids or they build something for them to race on, and that's
Yeah.
how that started. But
good idea.
Can I ask you something? How?
No, I asked the questions here. Sure.
I was kind of wondering, like, what got you into the.
I was born with a wrench in my hand. You can ask my
Okay.
mom. I came out.
That must
I
have been
came out
painful.
holding tools. I was ready to go.
Strong woman.
I didn't have a choice. Definitely. Shout out.
Yeah.
Hi, mom. I didn't have a choice. Everyone in my family was doing it. We're all from around here.
Right.
And in all aspects. I mean, on my dad's side, everybody was into cruising and lowriders, what I just kind of summarize as low and slow.
Mm-hmm.
And on my mom's side of the family, my grandfather and uncles, they were into the hot rods, big block Chevys, blowers sticking out of the hood, Corvettes. And it was really funny. I will share this with everyone. It was really funny growing up to hear the trash talking back and forth. Because there's this thin line for some reason in between the two. I don't know. I'm all about dissolving lines these days. I'm all about like, let's all get together. Why are we on different sides of the street for?
Right.
But yeah, growing up, it was just always funny hearing like, oh, those Corvettes are made out of paper because they're fiberglass, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, those old bombs, couldn't even get out of their own way, stuff like that because, they're running a 216 straight six with 3 on the tree, and it barely goes 65 miles an hour, and it's quite sketchy, even then.
So which line were you standing on back then?
I stood in the middle of the street, dude. I'm
Okay.
still standing out
Yeah.
there. I'm still standing right in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm dropping my arms or fixing the car on the side of the road, usually fixing whatever broke on either side. That's the thing too. Both cars break. I mean, the cars. It's true they are made out of paper, fiberglass, and it's true the straight six cannot get out of its own way. So there's always problems to solve on both ends, and leave it to the other guy to call them out. Call them out for you. He's always got something to say. So you should pay attention to what the other guy's saying.
Yeah. Ignore the insult part. Focus on the critique.
Exactly. It's constructive criticism, right?
There it is. Learning lessons here on Motor Minds.
So that's why we're here.
There you go.
So how you kind of touched on the 95 Chevy. So how would you say custom cars besides, well, you mentioned the museum, but my question is, so how would you say custom cars are incorporated in your daily life now?
Custom car, I mean, I drive one every single day, and that is just an exquisite feeling. But before, like I mentioned, I was driving sort of just to get around, but now whenever I'm cruising, you just get that kind of feeling inside that's just, it makes you feel right to be inside of that driver's seat that I just love.
Yeah, we call it the zone.
The
We call it
zone?
the zone. We get into the zone, and it's pretty easy when you have a nice car, isn't it? When
really
you
is.
have the right car, it's amazing how easy it is to get into the zone. It's as simple as sliding the key in the ignition and turning it.
There you go.
And then you're in the zone. And again, it's we're exploring that. We're unpacking to everyone else. So, what's something you've learned about cars, or something that you were opened up to once you started working at the museum?
I learned what a flathead is.
What is a flathead?
It's part of the engine that
Sorry,
has
what do
the
you mean?
valves that are coming up on it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Did I get that right?
I don't know. I don't know anything
boy.
about flatheads.
That's a bummer.
I'm just kidding. It sounded right. They'll fact check us.
Oh, no.
Comment about if you know the mechanical specifics.
Like and subscribe, hit the bell, all that.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Moving right along. We're just burning through all these questions. Some people might say, I would say, that cars or mechanic stuff, this stuff we're talking about, is a form of therapy. And would you agree with that?
100%.
Okay.
I definitely, whenever I look at sort of the repetition of knowing of those actions, of being able to know what you're doing and also knowing what has to move in order to make the engine work and what you can get away with, what you can't. And if you get upset at the engine, as in like if you like end up kicking it, okay, you can kick it, you'll break your toe, but it's not going to move. So you got to sit there calm and you got to plan out what you're going to do.
Now that you've got a broken toe.
Exactly, which is going to make it even more of a learning
It's going to
lesson
add
for
2
you.
more days
Yeah.
at least to the build. I've been there many times. Many broken toes. No, I'm just kidding. I wear steel toes now. But
Safety tips.
But right.
Yeah.
We're covering it all.
Yeah. But I definitely think that there's a lot into the engine and to maintenance and repair that's just applicable outside of just mechanics and going deeper into life. Sort of being able to build those habits and make sure you're maintaining and keeping things together and just never letting it. It's kind of like my dad would used to, when I was younger, always get on my case about wash your car every other week at the
Good
very
one.
least. And also condition the leather inside the cab and make sure that you also get.
Mr. Perez was right, everybody. 100%. Wash your car at least once every 2 weeks, Dad said.
Yep.
Or at least once a week if you can. At least you'll feel a lot better.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, try it.
Exactly. And so these kinds of repetitions of just like they build up good habits, and so it makes it easier that later on when you're trying to build up other good habits, you get good at it. I know that for a fact just after going to school for a while, having those habits stay with like studying as well, it just helps. And for that matter, when you spend all day just like reading heady stuff or whatever, it's just nice to be able to sit back with something that it works how it should, you know? And if it doesn't, you have a list of reasons why it doesn't, and you might be able to figure it out. Of course, there's a lot more diagnostic to it, but
Right. But it's that approach, right?
Yeah.
And how you may approach this problem. This is how you're going to approach any problem.
there you go.
And your processes that you may develop on your own,
Mm-hmm.
through how your own brain works. You're going to develop your own processes to how to solve these problems.
Right.
How to not lose your mind and okay, this is what's next. I've got
Still
a
working
broken
on that
toe.
one.
I've got to put this flathead back together, and the customer's picking it up tomorrow at 4.
There we
So let's get cracking. Let's duct tape it and keep rolling. And so that kind of stuff is real important. And I think for me that therapy aspect is there, and that's probably. I mean, it was a blessing, like I said, how I came out with wrenches in my hand. I had everybody encouraging me early on. I mean, I don't think I'd be anywhere close to where I'm at in life, solving any close to the problems I had to solve on the schoolyard playground or on the Little League field
Yeah.
or anywhere else life might take you, out in the boat, fishing off the coast of Catalina. They might say, hey, why is Ruben hooking all the fish? Well, something about mechanicking. There's something about being a mechanic and being a fisherman. There's the same kind of approaches there. So definitely 100%.
At the very least, a bit of patience, huh?
Exactly. I mean, you gotta, right,
Yeah.
putting your hook in the water.
And you hang out for a little bit until something happens, and don't try and push it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say you prefer wrenching or cruising?
I definitely prefer cruising, just simply
Same here.
because
Everything's working, right?
Yeah,
That's how you
exactly.
get in the zone. I
Yeah.
mean, you could get in the zone wrenching, but
Yeah.
it's a lot more frail.
And I'm so new to it that if I start wrenching things around, I'm worried, oh goodness, is this thing going to start running again?
Oh, that won't change no matter how long you've been wrenching. You could
Oh,
be
okay.
wrenching 40 years and still, is this thing going to start? I don't even know.
Thanks for that assurance.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Ask the pros. They'll tell you.
Definitely.
Everybody's just as worried the first time they crank the key, no matter how many years you've been doing it. So
let me tell you, as in like the guys inside of the museum, just like because they've all just been there for like they've all been around these
I bet there's some
motorsports for so
characters,
long.
huh?
Some really fascinating folks over there, but the kindest people you'd ever meet.
Sure.
Honestly.
100%.
Yeah. I was driving over there and I didn't notice that somehow a nail got into one of my tires. And I finally made it and I heard something hissing and I checked the back tire and it's like, oh yeah, there's a nail in that. And so I go in and I'm like, hey, can I borrow a phone so I can get the tow truck? They go, don't need it. And they immediately get out the jack and they immediately start changing up everything for me. Just kind folk.
Another key part of the hobby, the scene. I don't know what else. I mean, sure, there's the rivalries every now and then, but they're friendly for the most part. And you've got the Good Samaritan aspect. That Good Samaritan aspect there. It's big in the NHRA too. They have that friendly competitiveness where a team may lose an engine or something, and another team will loan them one, and just so they can keep racing.
Yeah.
It's all about that friendly competitiveness and. Helping each other out. Like I say, there is sometimes that ugly rivalryness that can emerge. But, at the end of the day, really, I think at the end of the day, no real car guy wants to win like that. No real car guy wants to leave somebody stuck on the side of the road. Our next guy, Mario, we'll get to him in a minute. He's excited to get on camera. But, something I noticed in off-roading, I don't know if you've ever been off-roading out in the canyons, out jeeping or four-wheeling. Another big thing is guys, trying to pull each other out of the hole. They won't leave you stuck and mired up in the mud. Just some random guy out there will pull you out, and it's just kind of amazing sometimes how far people will go out of their way to help you change a tire or loan a tank of gas or whatever it may be. And maybe you've noted that too,
No,
it's pretty cool.
I definitely have, and I like to think that there's a philosophy. I like to think that the noted rivalries inside of any motorsport are so notable because they're more the exception than the rule necessarily, as in people like to work together ultimately instead of trying to butt heads. And so the reason you hear about these famous rivalries is simply because
where would they be without the other, right?
Exactly.
If you lost one of them, well, then what's the other guy going to do now?
And the guy's like, I'm the No.
What's the Joker going to do without Batman?
There
right?
you go,
It's not going to be boring.
Yeah.
Show's canceled.
That's it. Motor Minds is done.
2 more episodes. I'm just kidding. We'll be here for a long time. As long as you lovely viewers will let us be here. We'll be here. So, speaking of Batman and Joker, what's your favorite car movie?
Favorite car movie? I mean, I feel as though it's easy to say The Fast and the Furious. Just no.
Not acceptable.
Oh, my apologies.
Okay, well we can. I'll take that. I'll take that. If you could tell me which one and why, and I want details. We're gonna get specific.
It would be easy to say that because it's the car movie that a lot of people, especially my generation, think immediately, right? However, and when I think when I think car movies, I think chase movies.
Sure.
You ever watch Drive with Ryan Gosling?
Yes.
It's my favorite car movie, probably.
Ryan Gosling is an underrated car guy.
That's what I hear.
He's definitely probably not on people's top 5 when they think car guys. But yeah, I would say Ryan Gosling definitely underrated because he did well in that movie. He dailied an old 78 Malibu or something like that.
That's what I hear. He was working on it though.
But then in one of the main chase scenes, he's rocking a front wheel drive SS Impala or something like that, or Malibu. The guy from what's the name of the guy from Breaking Bad? Bryan Cranston.
That's it.
Bryan Cranston is the mechanic in that movie. Yeah. We all look up to Bryan Cranston. I'm just kidding. He was the mechanic. I don't know, man. This one's too hot for you. I don't know if you can handle this one. He's doing the old cliche, wiping his hands with the oily rag. In every movie you've seen, 1980 prior, there's a scene in every car movie where the mechanic is wiping his hands with an oily rag.
Are you saying that's not accurate? Should I stop doing that?
No. Where's my rag? It's around here somewhere.
Got it in your pocket somewhere.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, so next question. Who's your favorite car guy? And you cannot say Bryan Cranston or anyone from Fast and the Furious. No Ludacris. I'm not accepting Tyrese. Shout out to Tyrese. He is a cool car guy, but I'm not taking him as your favorite this time.
I don't know.
He can be with us or not, because there's some legendary car guys, right, that are no longer with us, and they might have been some of those iconic guys that maybe you might remember from your past. Or
I mean, like, I might have to take some of my take a name from one of the guys I work with over there who just loves Tom Ford.
Okay.
Yeah. But also, as in, like, I will say, when it comes to, like, car collectors, I know that Jay Leno has his cars hidden somewhere inside of Pomona, or so I hear. But,
you've heard that rumor too, huh?
Yeah.
I'm still looking. I'm going to find it. I may or may not know where it is, Jay, but I'm not telling. I'm not telling. I'll keep it a secret.
But when it comes to, as in, like, when it comes to a collection of VW buses, like that comedian Gabriel Iglesias, he's got
Fluffy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's
100%.
got an impressive collection. That thing is like that's as in, like, he's just like something else when it comes.
Yeah,
to that.
you know, I think he may or may not have been from Southern California, and he may or may not be into bugs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he may have an extensive collection of not insects. I'm talking about Volkswagens.
Well, okay, hold on. I'm confused. Not insects.
Right, it's not an insect show, everybody.
I mean, like, I was misled.
Yeah, so we're good. Okay, sure. Gabriel Iglesias, I've seen a few things that he's into, the flat fours, like what Mario's into, Carmen Gias, and stuff like that. So I think it's probably a good time, if you agree. Maybe we could bring in Mario. And we're gonna bring in our next guest, everybody. This is Mario Flores, and bringing his own chair. Hi, Mario.
What up?
How you guys doing?
Thanks for joining us, sir. This way. Good. Welcome to Motor Mind, sir.
Therapy.
Yes, we are in the middle of a therapy session.
Well, doctor,
Tell me about how you feeling.
First, we would like to tell our guests a little bit about yourself. We would have you introduce yourself. Mario is a good friend of my shop, RG3 Solutions. We've worked on a couple of your rides. And I was just telling him a little while ago, that time we went off-roading. And we went a few times, actually. A few times. Had a good time out there. Mario's actually the one that introduced me to off-roading. We went my very first time up in the canyons. Oh, yeah, you remember that. Blew a motor. See what? I blew my motor first time off-roading. I don't know if I've shared that story with everyone, but yeah. So my first time off-roading, I see everybody driving across the reservoir, the shallow part, the backside of Morris Dam. They're in the Azusa Canyon. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but when the reservoir gets, varying water levels, sometimes a beach or a muddy area is generated there in the canyon, and you can hoon around there in the mud, and if you're a little braver, you can go in deeper water. As brave as you are, that's how deep. Well,
you're really brave.
I'm just a knucklehead. So I was just tuning through the water there pretty deep, quite excessively. And one of the times through there, my motor sucked up a lot of water, enough to what they call hydraulic it. Liquid does not compress, right? Gas and vapor compresses. When your motor sucks up a whole lot of water, it does what they call hydrolock or hydraulic, depending on who you're talking to. Okay. Some of these old guys that you work with, they may argue with that. I'd be interested in hearing what they would say if they were going to call it hydraulicking your motor or hydrolocking, because I've heard both.
One of them's calling in right now.
No, just kidding.
He's swearing.
On the next show, we'll get it. So long story short, it is an ordeal to break your motor down in the canyon. If you break your motor down in there ain't no tow truck going to get you out. And that brings up the Good Samaritan aspect. People are extremely helpful. They really do go out of their way. And it's weirdly,
right?
Huh?
That was your Suburban, right?
Yeah, it's weirdly fun.
Out Ford F-350.
It's weirdly fun to them. That guy had a good time. He was excited. This is about that rival we were talking about. He was excited that a Ford was going to pull out a Chevy. I was in my Suburban there on the side of the riverbank with a blown motor. He was so jacked. Hey, bro, I'm going to go do a couple more donuts in the mud with my girlfriend, and then I'll tow you out of here as soon as I'm done. I'm not lying, right, Mario? That's exactly what he said.
Ford F-350, early 90s Ford F-350. Crew cab, long bed, lifted. That's when I fell in love with them. That's when
Oh, that's why you have one now? That makes sense. That makes sense. He switched over that day. Some people do switch sides of the road.
because I just got the
Some people
2000
do
Tahoe too. It's like a
Right.
bunch
So
of
he's got a
rust,
cool collection. Let's get into your collection. Let's run down some of them real quick.
Oh, I'm excited about this.
So first we'll cover what are you dailying right now. Like what do you have semi-running or starts up?
So like I said in the bio, like a couple of them serve a purpose, and couple of them have stories. But what I daily into LA to commute around town, it's a 2014 Chevy Cruze, which is for sale because everything's for sale. Gotta get lunch money for more car parts. Gotta get lunch money for more car parts. But then I also, what I daily around town is my 2000 Chevy Tahoe, which the limit, I really can't get rid of that one. That one, cool story on that one. Neighbor that I've known since I was 11 years old, he passed away last year. His son, thank you. His son finally got a clearance from the estate to sell before he shipped out to Europe to be stationed. I caught the car one day coming down the block and immediately got on the phone. I saw the sign in the car. It said $4,000. I went and knocked on the door and I said to him, I knew your dad since I was 11 years old. I know, me and you never were different generations, so we didn't really hang out, but I'd be honored if you let me buy your car. I said, what do you want for it? I have $1,000 in my pocket right now. It just so happened. And I was like, what do you want for it? He said, well, the sign says $4,000. I said, well, here's $1,000 and I'll be back with the other $3,000. He said, just give me $1,500. Wow. At that moment, I was like, some cars cannot leave the block. Some cars have to stay within, so everybody sees him. He was, my family moved into that neighborhood in 1987, and he was the guy that lived on the corner that made sure that all the little knuckleheads on the block stayed at their house and didn't run the streets, and made sure the cars slowed down. So he was that guy. So he was the last Boy Scout.
Probably liked you, huh? Probably because he gifted you the car, right?
Essentially, the son did end up he gifted me the car. So
like he wanted you to have it.
Responsibility is I have to maintain it. I got to keep it up, and I can never get rid of it. And if I do, it must at least go back to where it came from, or it has to stay on the block. And that's kind of the commitment that I've made to the people that originally owned it. Mm-hmm. It's funny because that's not the only one. I bought my 67 Gia from my neighbor that lived across the street. He was a Brinks driver, and he used to drive to downtown LA from 1987 to 2000. He drove this 67 Carmen Gia. He bought it in 70. He was the second owner. He drove his daily driver from downtown LA to the Brinks company down into West Covina. He lived across from me. I remember I was 11 years old. I said, one day I'm going to buy that car from you, old man. And he laughed at me.
Should have been laughed.
He knew. He probably did. He probably like, when I'm dead.
In 1998, my son is born. In 1988, my son is born. And 2 years later, he tells me, hey, I have emphysema. I'm retiring. I'm out of here. I'm going to Oregon. You want the car? You got a week. I did everything I could to take every piggyback that I could break, and I got every bit of change out and a couple of promissory notes, and I got them all the pocket change.
See, I like this about Mario. He's one of those car guys that is not particularly brand loyal or brand specific. He's into this car's story. He's akin to Arnie from Christine. Right.
Boom.
$300 is too much for that thing, Arnie. I don't care. I want it.
Yeah. No, I have a couple of those stories.
We're about to hear them.
I bought rust in where is that? Los Gatos, California. I bought rust. Basically, it was a 67 Carmen Gia rolling chassis. It was the pan, wheels, and the body. And I bought that for $500. And it was completely, this is therapy, I'm telling you.
Let it out, man.
So anyway, another story.
Get a tissue. We'll get some for you.
It was funny because, I know it's a family show, but I was actually about a month before that, I ended up getting a DUI. And I was about in the process of losing my license. And I figured, well, exactly. I need a project. I'm going to be home. And so I was going to use that roller to rebuild the yellow gear that I bought from the security guy.
Good plan, solid plan.
Went up there, drove up there on Thanksgiving weekend, and I bought it for $500 in the rain, and I dragged that thing all the way back home. Oh, it was a long day. It was 8, 9, 10 hours. So it was, 2-3 hours of driving up, the rain, the traffic, 6 hours back. You're at 9. Yeah, my son wasn't happy with me that day. But, we move on from that one.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
You know? Besides, give it a little time, I'll probably buy that Corolla off you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, just tell them it's cool. Tell them a story about it,
I mean, there is a story to that
I'm
Corolla.
sure there's always a story. Good.
Part of why you can't buy it anymore.
I bet.
Yeah.
So, what would you build with an unlimited budget?
Wow.
If we didn't have to consider, wheeling and dealing, if we were just like, hey, money's no object.
Do we consider the laws of gravity? I'm just kidding.
Right. It's some alien technology. I mean,
Building a
I'm sure if
spaceship.
money was no object.
Motor mounds in space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, sure. You talk to Elon or Jeff and see, work for the highest bidder. Money's no object, right?
Imagine a solar-powered 65 Lincoln. That'd be dope.
In space?
In
They put a
space.
Fiero in
I was
space. We're
about to
talking
say.
about.
Wow. The taste is so vast. It really, I just love Rust. I love it. I have a Toyota, a 91 Toyota pickup 4x4, manual transmission. I have the Tahoe. I have the F350. I have a 57 oval window Beetle. It's nothing about rare. It's just something about being a kid and remembering. I see the car in the street. I'm like, oh yeah. Or my cousin, even my cousin AJ, he's like, that would be a good car. I'm like, let's look for one. I don't know. We have a cousin, AJ and I have a cousin named DJ. And DJ and I as kids never really hung out all the time. But when he was around, we were thick as thieves, And I remember I had a Hot Wheel collection one time. And his Hot Wheel collection was beat up old Hot Wheel cars. I never had the new Hot Wheels. I always had the hand-me-down Hot Wheels. My brother was older than me. And we'd take those
The
Hot
ones that are
Wheels.
worth $4 million now.
Yeah, the
by
ones
way.
I should have kept, right? I should have kept and maintained.
Uh-huh.
But we'd have we played the simplest games. Like we'd set up remember those little plastic army men?
Yeah.
We'd set them up on a table or a piece of board like this, all around. He'd get 25 or 50, I get 25 or 50, and we take the little Hot Wheels cars and we do this, and we'd shoot them across the table or across the board, and whatever that Hot Wheel car hit as far as army men, those army men were dead, and last man standing wins basically the war. Well, I had all these little beat up Hot Wheels cars that were part of my fleet, right? And one Christmas I ended up getting it was the Hot Wheel case that was a wheel. And it had the little button, and you open it up, and it had the little tray with the little compartments. The little compartment was made out of plastic. And I remember my cousin, he was only 2 years older than me. I was probably about 7. And I remember through messing the hustle and bustle, one of us stepped on it, and I bawled my butt off. And I'm like, ah, because I didn't have my case anymore. But it's just one of those things, my yard is becoming that stupid case, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying not to do that. Like my kid's like, Dad, you're on restriction. It's not like I have money. It's not like it's just like I find a good deal. Like the 65 Lincoln I bought for $3,900. Who would have known 3 years later, with some tender loving care, the white walls, things like that, getting it running. I mean, there's good prospect. But now I see the car like that, and I bought that from the original owner, the heirs of the original owner, which was the daughter. I'm like, they gave me such a good deal. I feel guilty turning a dime on that.
Yeah, you're good at seeing the car's spirit. You're good at personifying the car. You're good at it's not so objective to you.
No.
It's a car with feelings and
You adopt that car.
Yeah,
It's emotional. It's
and,
emotional.
and so I mean, I used to feed stray animals. Sometimes I would bring them home. And there's something in me about still, even with the cars, it's mostly with the cars now, as you don't want them to die.
No.
You know, I always tell customers and people that we're reversing entropy. You know, entropy is a law of thermodynamics that all systems must degrade. All systems must return to and break down, right? So the rubber's rotting, the metal's rusting, the glass is flaking, everything's just falling apart. And what we're doing is trying to preserve the spirit, trying to preserve the life. Whatever we see there that's in there, that's more than just the car, is what we're trying to capture and preserve and keep. And those little moments, they're locked in there. And, you know, there's more of them you can unlock as you're driving the car or fixing the car. Getting into the zone, you know, the car can take you to the zone, you know, it can take you to Whittier Boulevard, or it can take you to that Sunday afternoon, just out there wrenching on it, just tinkering with the carburetor, or, you know, polishing the chrome, whatever you're going to be doing, like that therapy, right? That therapy is going to be there for you.
Ruben
I'm just a mechanic, everybody.
No, man.
So, I don't know if you answered what you would build if I gave you all the money.
No, I didn't actually, right? I think
those Hot Wheel cars.
I guess, you know, that's probably funny that you say it, but I'd probably, if money was limitless,
you'd fix them all, right?
I think I'd take every one of them from a 77 Valiant to nothing special. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, that's what my parents
You
drove.
could Caesar Milan all the cars. You can just buy all the junky cars everywhere. There was a TV show of a guy in Canada who's doing that, right?
Yeah,
he has a yard.
yeah.
He has like 200 cars out there.
With the
and
dreadlocks?
Yeah, he just brings one in every once in a while and fixes it up, right? That'd be a cool thing to do with that. That's probably what I would do with an unlimited budget.
You just got to put them on the road.
With an unlimited, I would ban all the junkyards. There'd be no more crushing cars. No more cars would ever be crushed. And we would just fix them all and just put electric motors or hydrogen fuel cells or something like that.
Much,
preserve. Well, I mean, you got to preserve the lines, but you got to think of the future.
You want to keep the car, even if it means that you got to change something. It's still the spirit of the car is still in there.
Yeah, you got to be careful not to lose that. Yeah, we talked, I think, in one of our early episodes about AJ's dad posited the pet cemetery theory about the car restoration process, about how when the car goes into the shop for a restoration, say you pull it out of a field, out of a driveway, out of a barn, whatever, you know, and the entropy has taken its toll. Say it's been 8, 10, 20 years since someone last loved the car, and it's just there unloved forever how long. And, you know, you've got to go and undo all that. Like, why? How much is that going to take? How long is that going to take you? You know, and why? Why would you tell someone to do that? AJ's dad posited, okay, so whatever you send into the repair shop, whatever comes back out, you want it to be the same thing. You don't want to lose. You know, you got to hold on to why. You got to hold on to why you sent your car in and why you want it back. And don't maybe necessarily swap in that LS motor because it's a vintage Jaguar. Keep that straight six with the aluminum head and the dual overhead cam. Don't just put in a small block Chevy because you want to drive it too soon. Get the white walls, man. Go ahead and get the white walls because, hey, how many cars can rock white walls and look good, you know?
Correct, yeah.
Right, stuff like that, you know, so it's like that spirit that's encapsulated within that metal or magic, whatever you want to call it, that's in there that we're all crazy about. We all agree now, I think, in this therapy session that we all have a problem, right? And we see something there that we need to preserve, that we need to keep, that we can't lose, something that's special, very important. And we want to fix it and drive it around and show our friends, you know. Come on, jump on in. Let's go break down together.
Right.
And I mean, ultimately, even though it's all breaking down, you're building things up inside of it. You're making something new out of it.
We're fighting up against that anyway. We're standing up to it, right? We know it's a law. It's the second law of thermodynamics. It's going to break down. But we have hope that someone's going to come along after us and take care of it, right? We were just talking about the people that, you know, are no longer with us and they pass along their cars. Yep. You know, you talked about how, you know, your story, how they encouraged you and then how you came across those cars and why you came across them. It's something we all know subconsciously. We don't really all have the words for. That's why we have to have hour-long podcasts about why we're doing this.
Like and subscribe.
Comment down below. But look, now we're all doing it. Now we're all YouTubers. Look at us.
Finally, I did it.
See, Mom? I'm just kidding. Mom always believed in me anyway. Mom knew I was going to be here. But so that's why we do it.
No, for sure. It's funny. The reason I even started looking at 65 Lincolns was because was AJ's dad, I remember discussing it. The only thing is I couldn't find a convertible. I couldn't afford any of the convertibles that were out there for sale.
I'm gonna get him on the show, Mr.
Yeah, you
Roman.
got it.
Mr. Roman, you're next. I'm coming for you, sir.
Uncle,
Yeah,
I'll drive you here.
If someone asked me the question, who helped you, and AJ's dad definitely was one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, all business, very very business, straight edge kind of guy, but catch him doing a burnout or a donut every now and then. You'll catch him. You will. You will.
Mild mannered man.
Very meek and
All day
simple.
long, yeah.
I mean, not to be pushed around, not to be trifled with, but because he's packing a big block Chevy, on slicks,
Yeah.
So
When your work's good enough, it speaks for itself. You don't have to say anything for it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, he's walks a little slow, talks a little quiet, but he's got a foot like that. Brah! The
Yeah.
whole thing goes.
Yeah, just watching him
Yeah.
growing up. I didn't even know AJ yet. I didn't even know my best friend yet. But I remember AJ's dad passing by my house every day in that 454 Chevy.
Truck from hell.
Growing up, I just would see that thing pass by every day at about 3:45 when he's getting off work, and I would wait for it. When's he coming up there? I could hear him coming. It would be about another 10 years before I would meet AJ, but I knew of his dad and his dad's truck. Probably one of the things that really pulled us. Oh, that's your dad's truck? Come here, we're gonna be friends.
Did you ever see that Chevy put out the commercial for that thing, that truck? It's
They
called the
probably
Truck
put out
from
a
Hell.
lot.
Well, that one was called specifically
Yeah.
that Chevy was the 454, the truck from hell, and it had
Jeez.
flames behind it. It was
Heaven help us. Yeah. So we talked about what you would build with an unlimited budget. You'd fix all the Hot Wheels cars.
just.
But okay, so what would you go out and buy if I said, "Hey, you can go out and buy anything, already ready to go"?
I think I'd 65 Lincoln convertible. That just because I have the sedan and we're working to get it to a Resto Patina original look. The white walls, but I think the matching I just love the square body
you want the
style
set.
laid out. Just the vert, the sedan, suicide doors.
That's from an era, a very special era,
Yeah.
right? Historically speaking, the presidential motorcade was Cadillacs for the United States.
Yes, it was.
Presidents of the United States always had Cadillacs.
62.
Cadillac. But then when the Kennedy administration took office,
Yeah.
Kennedy was a Lincoln man.
Yes.
And so the presidential motorcade, I mean, the CIA was scrambling. Everybody had to switch over and bulletproof these Lincolns. But back then, I mean, everybody was a hard worker and everybody had a different mentality back then. And they got it done.
Yeah.
A car like a Lincoln Continental could never be built today. It just would be extremely expensive. I just don't think a car built to that extent with that level of build quality could ever be produced again because people would work very well cheaply. To be able to afford that kind of skilled labor and a whole army of them would be impossible. You'd
You
never be
work
able
on
to
the
find-
motor. I mean, you tell me how many friggin' vacuum.
Yeah, I mean,
motors
it's incredibly impossible. An old Lincoln is like an engineering marvel in the fact that a 64 is nothing like a 65, which is nothing like a 66. They just kind of started from a blank slate. Every year there was these armies of engineers and people that would produce a car, these engineering firms, and then Lincoln wasn't the only one. Everybody was
Right,
doing
yeah,
it back
right,
then.
right.
And it's just like amazing that we don't have that. And that's why all the cars look the same now, everybody, in case you're wondering why 2020 looks just like a 2002. We got a little lazy, and we are doing this show to encourage all of you, to encourage all of your little ones to design, to build, to play with the tools.
Now they build them in generations or eras. Like you got first gen Toyota pickups, the Tacomas, second gen Toyota Tacomas, then you got the new third gen Toyota. You're absolutely right. Before it was every year was something completely out the box, something brand new. I mean, you look at there's a time when you can actually look at a car and say it's that year because of that. You go through Volkswagens. It's that year because of that.
And it won't be one thing; it'll be many
Yes.
differences.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There'll be many differences
Yeah.
from one year to the next.
Now
I need
everything
a
else is-
notepad for all this. Y'all dropping some major knowledge on me here.
Oh, yeah. So watch Motor Minds. We're on once
Like
a
and
month.
subscribe. Go to the YouTube channel.
Ring the bell.
Yes.
I need to listen to my own advice, is what you're saying?
No, but it's yeah.
How do you feel about eating in the car?
Depends on which car.
Right.
Because like my commuter car, man, fender benders, I don't care if somebody scratches it. I've spilled soda in it. I just wipe it up. That's the commuter car. That's the Cruise. That's for sale, by the way. Good price. Telling way too much.
That's okay.
It's funny
We'll sell
because
it in the comments.
before the Cruise, I had a 2000 Honda Civic, and that was the commuter car, and that was my beater. I mean, I drove it all around town. I eat in, I eat while driving. I eat a lot too. Tacos, life. Anyway,
Exactly, life. The car is a place for life, right?
it's it's
So
funny.
life happens in the car.
But then there's the cars that I have like the '57 Oval, the oval window Beetle.
Right.
I barely even wear shoes in the thing. like you know what I mean? Like everything. There's still beach towels on the interior. The '67 Gia, that vinyl interior, no carpet, and I'm like, I guess every car, they have their own rules, I guess.
So this is an educational show, and I asked him that question specifically because I knew he'd give the perfect answer. I knew he would tell us and the rest of our viewers why yes, some cars you don't eat in, right? You just don't, but other ones it's okay. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
It's a public service announcement to let you know if you eat inside of either of these gentlemen's cars, the wrong car, you're in a lot of trouble.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
If I pass you the cheeseburger or the milkshake, man, have at it by all means. But if I smack it out of your head, I'm just kidding. Kidding.
One thing is like getting into the car, so you gotta
Well,
be trustworthy enough to get in the car. I remember there's a joke I used to tell people, I gotta pat your pockets when you get out because you know what I mean? I like your friend. You just got in the car. Cars like this is like you're safe on wheels sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like when you go to the raffle range, I pack all my equipment in. And it's like in my truck, in my F-350, and you got to make sure everything's sorted properly. I mean, it's almost like nowadays I stop buying new cars because older cars have so much character, and then I realize, well, you can, when they're so cheap or they're expensive, you find a good deal and they have good stories, you keep them. They kind of match your personality, and we're all really complex people as it is. So there's parts of me that are my '67 Gia where I jump in flip flops and I'm drinking an iced tea and I'm running through the gears. And on Porsche Alleys, and I'm hitting the freaking gas station, and I'm coming in curved. And then there's me that's, well, we need to pack everything because we're going to the beach. I want to make sure I have my firewood, I have the girls' tents, my daughter's tents. I want to make sure I have the barbecue, the propane tent. So the lawn bed just gets stacked, and that's my other personality that suffers from never wanting to leave anything or anybody behind. And then there's the oval window, which is like, okay, this is me.
Yeah.
And then there's the Lincoln where it's like, son, you're gonna have to learn how to drive a boat because it's 8 feet wide, 20 feet long, and I bought this car so that you could drive me around in.
It's something you just made me realize now is how the Bug and the Lincoln are from very similar vintages, but it's from a mechanical standpoint, they really couldn't be more opposite from cars of the time.
Yeah.
If we were to get in a time machine and go back to, let's say, the early 60s, when those cars would have been tooling around, you couldn't be more opposite between a German Volkswagen and a Lincoln.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure, people might correct me, but they would have been a different kind of person driving those cars back in the day.
Yes.
Two totally different people.
It was, Volkswagen, the people's car.
Yeah.
Right.
Lincoln was the businessman's the businessman's car.
But how simple is a
executives.
Volkswagen? What does it have as far as bells and whistles? It's bare bones. There's no amenities.
And that is the beauty. It's so simplistic, yet and it ran forever. I remember taking a trip one evening with the buddies at a '69 V-Dub, and we're heading down 60 freeway because why not? And it's probably, 1 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, I start smelling smoke. And it's because the oil right off the seal, off the crank, it started seeping oil. And it started dropping, and it was hitting the exhaust. And I'm smelling smoke. We pull over. Now, most cars that are more complex, it's like, okay, now you got to go through a whole battery of of diagnostics. All right, is this car safe to drive? This one basically was like, all right, it's leaking. That just means we need to add more oil. Make sure it doesn't run out of oil until we get back home. Well, we finished our trip, our drive, came back, and it was just kept adding oil. It just kept adding oil, and that's basically what it was. And it smoked, and that thing. The beautiful thing about that car is, got back home, got another block, built it, threw another single port 1600 in it, and that car was good as new again.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. They have, I don't know if you know this, but they have competitions the competitions last, I think. Again, someone's going to fact check me on this, but it's probably like 10 minutes or so that they do to take out a Volkswagen engine. People race. It's a formal organized event where they have a Volkswagen Bus and guys race. It will be 2-man teams and they run up and one guy jacks it up, the other guy starts with the tires. And I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's about 10 minutes or so is on average what it takes to remove slide over here, then grab another engine, and I'm talking about it rolls in starting. They drive it in these competitions. They drive it in, they change the motor, and with the new motor they start it and they drive off, and they time on both things. To put that into perspective, let's look at the Lincoln. The Lincoln has 7 motors just in the convertible top.
Wow.
Only the convertible top, because you have the trunk that opens backwards, and that's one motor, and then you have another beauty panel that opens backwards over here, and then the top starts coming out, the top mechanisms, and again, there's 5 more motors that complete all of that. Yeah, like I say, the Lincoln and the Bug really could not be polar opposites. So he's a fine example of a car guy,
I just love Rust.
I was really, really excited to have you. So thanks for coming. Yeah. And you too, Dominic. I mean, we're so pumped to start to grow our connections with everybody. That you're over there at the museum is really good. I mean, what would you say to anyone who was maybe on the fence, perhaps intimidated, or anything like that, to encourage them to get into the hobby, to get started, roll up their sleeves, get their hands dirty, pick up the tools, or buy that car that they're thinking about? Maybe they're stocking that thing on OfferUp or in someone's driveway, right? What would you tell them to buy
Waiting
it?
for somebody to die?
Hopefully not. Hopefully. Because they probably would want to see you cruising it, right? I mean, okay, so I'll be honest with you. When I die, I want to pick who gets my cars. You get the Camaro. You get the C10. You get the, right? And I'm going to punish certain people with certain things, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. But right, you do consider that. And so, like, bring you back to my question, what would you say to somebody? Because we need help, guys. We need more people at the car show. We need bigger turnouts. We need cars that don't look the same every year. We've got lots of problems to solve. We need different means of fueling them. We need different means of disposing of the hazardous waste. What do we do with these old batteries when they're no good? We can't just dump them in the ocean.
The culture is growing
we
older.
Need people. We need people to come in and help us solve these problems, because you and I cannot do it on our own, right?
Yeah.
So yes, let's encourage the next generation. What are we going to tell them?
I guess I'd simply say something along the lines of, I know the way you feel. I've experienced it personally.
You are not alone.
There you go.
I am here with you.
But also, as in, like, when you think about a car and you're concerned about, like, say, prices, I guarantee you that there's a lot more economic options than you'd be surprised how much people are willing to work with you just to be able to pass on the information and just to be able to share something that they love. Like, we were mentioning, as in, like, it was cars from the neighborhood, people you knew when you were growing up, that were the ones who were selling these cars. They love and put their time, money, and just life into these things. They want someone to carry on the wrench. And if you start asking around and if you start looking for it, you can find it.
Someone will give you the tools. Someone will give you the car if you really... I got a car back there someone gave me. I'm still ready to wrench on, and you'll find places to stash them too, so don't worry about that either, right?
Some mechanics.
Yeah, you'll stash them with mechanics, or we called it lawn art a couple of episodes ago.
Oh, that's right.
Lawn art. It's lawn art. Go ahead and buy it and just park it there, and the neighbors will see it rolling in rusty on a tow truck, and the day you sell it, they'll see it. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully you get it running, right? Hopefully you fix it. Hopefully you learn something. Hopefully you go visit the auto parts store, just go chit chat with the dude behind the counter at AutoZone, or pull up to your local car meet. You don't need a car, right, to pull up.
Go to the antique car swap meet. It's this weekend.
Pomona swap meet is a
Yep.
big one.
Just ask questions. What I've found is that, just thinking about what you were just saying, the car culture is getting older because those cars that you used to wrench on, those are an era before us. We were the last of the era in a sense, because the cars now, they're all digitized, they're all computerized, they're harder to work on. The technology and the tools are different than what. So there's this gap. But what I realized when I sold my Tacoma and I started buying older cars was, yes, I'm gonna break down and I'm not gonna know, and I'm gonna be frustrated and I'm gonna be broke, but it's gonna be fun because the stories, like, just love the stories, I mean, being able to sit here and is just therapeutic for me in a sense, because I start realizing like all the things that got me to here. I remember one time my brother was like, I like that car, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy that car just for sibling rivalry. I'm gonna buy that car.
I'm gonna show
Screw
him.
I'm gonna show him. and you do that, then you're like, all right, done with that. I like that rust bucket too. I'm gonna get that rust
My
bucket.
room in the driveway. If I scoot that other one,
You
over.
know,
if I scoot that one
it's
closer
for
to the
sale.
fence. Yeah, exactly.
This is for
Sell it.
sale.
Street
So,
sweeper
is there
only
anything you
comes-
regret selling?
You always regret selling, but not so much selling the car, you're selling at the price. Because there's so much emotional attachment, I think. I mean, I'll never get what I feel I want, or what the car deserves for the effort and all the energy and time that people
Right.
put in. It is so, but you know what? Maybe I'll find a guy like me, and for the next sale, I'll find a guy like me, and I'm gonna be like, you know what, youngster, check it out, young blood. This is yours. Run with it, and I'm gonna give you a hell of a deal. But do I regret selling any of my cars? I regret crashing a couple of them. I think that's
Yeah, you always want to keep the shiny side
Yeah.
up.
yeah.
Shiny
Yeah.
Good
side
tip.
up. Pro tip. Shiny side up.
Yeah, door handles go to the top, not the bottom.
The tires go
Yeah.
down
Yeah,
on
I
the
really
ground.
need that notepad.
No, I'm telling you, dude. Don't worry. There's a
another,
video of it.
another pro
There you
tip.
go.
You got at YouTube, like and subscribe.
There we go. Ring the bell.
Is there anything else? We're gonna start wrapping it up. Is there anything else you guys want to say or mention?
Yeah, there's one last thing I just like speaking about, just like it's a generational thing. Whenever I didn't really get to know my grandpa. He passed away when I was like 3.
Yeah.
But he used to drive a Lincoln, and I remember the first time I ever got to sit behind the wheel of one, I put on some music that he used to like, Perry Como, and I just cruise, and I just was sitting there. I'm like, my grandpa listened to this while driving. Things worked out pretty well for him, probably even when he didn't think they were going to, you know? And he just kept on going, and he took care of my mom, and she took care of me, and I can do the same thing, because I'm going to be able to do it too, because I'm in the same spot as he was.
The zone.
Exactly.
The zone. He showed you the way.
There you go.
That's right. I mean, it's very compelling. It's very, there's a lot happening in the car, a lot of stuff going on in the hood, like we talked about, and it's all working. You know, it's all working, and there's something to that. There's something that we keep going because the machine keeps going.
Yeah.
The music keeps going.
Oh.
So we're still going, you know, the show's still going. So
When that bass stumps.
we just we just roll on, right? Or even when that song ends, bum bum, you know, the next one starts. You know, start the CD over, flip the track over. 8 tracks have 2 sides, right?
Tapes.
Yeah. And I mean,
Well,
like,
same.
guys my age are going to have to start doing this because
I'll
they
do
got
it.
it. I'm 27. But, you
27,
know,
see?
as in, like, the younger generation's going to got to pick this up because who's gonna keep the lights on for the next guy, you know?
And then there's those other things that we were talking about at the beginning that we don't want to lose. You know,
Yeah.
those life lessons that are hidden, those little hidden nuggets that are distributed throughout the hobby. You know, those little things that are going to help you with life, that you're
Right.
going to pick up these little processes to use to solve problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's about all our time. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to my wonderful guests, Mr. Dominic Perez and Mr. Mario Flores. And thank you to the Jaw, Allegra, and everybody here. You guys are the best. And we'll catch you guys next time. See you out there on the road.